On my no, it goes live.
Perfect. Okay, so we're discussing the Andreessen Horowitz case.
I did not understand this case. Did anybody
It
else?
was, it was a tough one.
I read the entire thing and it was like, so what happened?
Right,
I felt like I understood a little bit of what happened, but I didn't feel like I gained an idea of what they were like, what if they really knew what they were talking about, and also the other end. I was like, I don't even know if I understood what they were trying to say they were talking about.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at all. I was like, I hope somebody else knows what's going on because I don't.
Okay, well, I think I understood a bit of the case, so hopefully together we can arrive at stuff. Oh, okay.
Because I have no idea.
Okay, all right, I'll talk.
This made me feel real dumb.
So starting with bullet point 3, so far we have learned to evaluate business models of startups. Today we will examine the business model decisions of a startup in a mature industry. As a group, begin by discussing the following questions. The first one, was the venture capital, or VC, industry attractive for A16z to enter in 2009? What was the competition like at the time? What was the typical fate of the new entrants in this industry? Why was this so? What were the trends in VC fund performance during this time? Okay, so a lot of that I felt was covered in the case in one of the exhibits. I know from a tech perspective, and hopefully I can get the PDF up in front of me right now. Nope, it's going to make me log in. Great. So I know from a tech perspective, in 2008 there was a well, that's when part of the financial bubble burst, and the initial dot-com crash was in 2001, or 2003 actually.
Yeah, it was right after 9/11.
Yeah. So what had happened in the let's see here. Okay, so if we look on page 19 of the case study, Exhibit 4, or Exhibit 5 rather, the capital summary statistics, you see VC firms kind of spiked in 2002, and then there was a drop-off over the next 10 years. And I think a lot of that is attributable to the decline of dot-com firms over that point in time. I know 2003 was the dot-com boom, 2008 was the big real estate recession. So yeah.
I was actually going to say...
Yeah.
I was going to say that I felt like what was really going on was it was just it was overpopulated already. So a lot of people had made their mistakes and kind of fallen off. So in some ways, it would have been a good time to come in because everyone was dying because they'd made all the mistakes and were already out the money. So you could then invest money into a smarter choice. But you're still overpooled. So it's technically not the best time. I can't think of the right word, but there's too much competition still at the time, even with it, because there's people still docking out in a couple years later.
It's a saturated market.
Thank you. I knew there was a good word for it.
Yes. I know
Is this why we do this as a group?
Yes, that's why. Vocab lessons.
Yes, definitely. It was saturated at that point, and with a lot of people who were probably maybe disillusioned with the
that's a good word.
With the industry. Yeah, it's Scrabble night tonight in the group meeting.
I was gonna say we could also use that in gospel terms, but let's not worry about that one. That's a little too deep.
Yeah. So was it attractive? I think from the point of view that Andreessen Horowitz was looking at it, I think it was attractive because they were completely looking at reinventing the VC model and turning it into the power of amplifying networks and not just, here's money and go. So new entrants, I think, in the industry around 2008, 2009 probably did not do so well because they were still following the old model. And they're out in Silicon Valley, which is a great incubator. I kind of take a little umbrage to that, if there's another Scrabble word. I take a little umbrage to that being in the kind of the tech hub of the South right now in Austin, where there's plenty of activity, but not a lot of VC opportunities for founders. So yeah, I mean that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I think too that they were like the firms, like you guys mentioned, that were the VC firms that were there, weren't creating or giving their customers any value, and so he was focused on creating a VC firm that actually gave its customers or investors value.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
I was gonna say, I feel like that was one of the weakest points that they had in the saturated market, was that no one felt like they were getting anything back. So I believe they were trying to fix the real problem that had been causing all the failures.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
in that way, yeah, I'd agree with you, is that they were looking and seeing it as a positive movement, that it was actually going to succeed because it was actually fixing a lot of the problems that everyone else struggled with.
Right, exactly. I think their model was, more a rising tide lifts all boats, than everybody hunting and pecking. And also they also worked on how the deals were sourced. Instead of going out and trying to dig up deals, I think they worked mostly on referrals, and they empowered the general partners to kind of work off of the new model that they were designing rather than the old ways.
Well, and I think also, I mean, he did his homework. He studied and the history and evolution of like different types of, was it industries or firms or something, like
Yeah.
agencies and consulting firms and all that stuff. So I think in comparison to our other case, he actually
Stayed involved.
yeah. So I think he had a good what was the question? I don't know if it was
Good
an
idea.
opportunity. A good idea, sure.
Yeah. We got a
That's
silver
a basic word
lining,
for
I
it,
think, is how they're phrasing this question. What silver lining did Andreessen Horowitz see?
What are you doing?
And how did they plan to succeed in this difficult environment? I think we answered that through just changing the model and looking to provide more value to the companies in their portfolio versus other VC firms. Okay, so let's see. Next bullet point. Why is Andreessen Horowitz? I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to say A16Z. So why is Andreessen Horowitz specifically targeting first-time technical co-founders? How has the cost of tech startups impacted the VC industry? How has it impacted the need for technical co-founders to raise capital? Do these trends apply to other sectors such as life sciences or clean tech? If I remember correctly, they were specifically targeting first-time technical co-founders because the technical co-founders were kind of at the point where they knew their products, they had experience in building and developing products, but they didn't necessarily have the experience in recruiting or marketing or go-to-market strategies. And that's where Andreessen Horowitz found that they could add the most value, was introducing companies in their portfolio to that sort of to people with those skill sets and help them there. As far as the cost of tech startups impacting the VC industry, startup costs have plummeted to very, very little, especially with the emphasis on open source and open source technologies. Technology is getting cheaper, so there's not really a lot of money needed to bootstrap a company to an MVP and be able to get something in front of customers and in front of prospective VC people. So that's impacted the need for technical co-founders to raise capital. They don't necessarily need to raise a lot of capital, as they may have used to. Now, because a lot of the stuff they need is already out there. And do these trends apply to other sectors such as life sciences or clean tech? I'm going to say probably not. So. I'll stop and take a breath there.
Why do you think it doesn't apply to life sciences or clean tech?
So my main reasoning behind that is just because of a lot of the open source type stuff. With software engineering, it's a little bit easier to get by with stuff you just, for want of a better term, find scattered around the internet versus like life sciences or clean tech, where there's still a lot of patentable stuff and a lot of laboratory work, which patents and lab work and things like that cost money. Physical engineering costs money and takes resources, to machine a product, to machine specific parts, build an MVP, build a prototype, or in the cases of life sciences, paying for the lab work, doing engineering science, things like that. That's more costly than taking some code and bolting it together and and picking a server for $5 a month and throwing a demo up there.
Yeah, but there are also a lot of life science, clean tech, or whatever products that they put their initial idea together and then they throw it on crowdsource or Indiegogo and put it on Facebook and let other people get them to the point where they have a real MVP, and then they take it to venture capital.
Yeah, that's a different way of raising money, not necessarily through venture capital, but definitely through crowdsourcing. I think that's pretty legit. In the past couple of years, I mean, I know I've backed projects on Kickstarter, not necessarily in big life sciences or things like that. Been more like board games. But yeah, I mean that's definitely out there, and I think that's the new disruptive method of funding that's there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, especially in society nowadays that the venture capital system has come a way to provide money where no one else will be able to provide it otherwise. To be able to basically work the system so that way people can take advantage of opportunities before, but also the capitalists be able to make money off the fact of other success. They're not pulling a lot of the work.
I didn't hear half of that. You're cutting in and out.
It's generally it's generally a two-way street win for venture capitalism nowadays because of the fact that one side, they get the money they need to make a dream come true, but on the other side, for the venture capitalist, they can produce more money for themselves without having to actually put in the effort. So it's almost like creating idle profits.
I kind of think that they also can gauge how well or how much money they should put into it themselves at all, just because they can look at, well, they met their goal on Kickstarter in 2 hours, and their goal was $100,000, and in 2 hours they got it all. So clearly, people really want this product, and it'll be a good investment, and they can get all of that good data for free from Kickstarter because they can see how many people contributed and how many people and how quickly they got to their goal.
I think one of the hardest points that a lot of people face, I think it's the biggest weakness of a company, to be honest, when someone starts. The biggest mistake they make is they usually tell a lot of people about the company, about the interest and stuff like that. And they're either asking for money or they're just telling someone because they're excited about it. But they don't take the opportunity to then ask them if that's something they know people would be interested in or that they would be interested in, and either getting emails to send out, SurveyMonkey stuff, or finding out if those people would be interested in purchasing those products in the future and to make a contact point for when that happens. Because a lot of the profits and sales that generally happen at the start of a market is that way. And a lot of people just miss it because their word of mouth that they built up was beforehand, and then they didn't apply that to their future profit capability. Sorry, that's a little off topic, but it's just kind of a side note.
No, that's absolutely true. I think one of the advantages of crowdfunding is that by nature it's almost viral. So there's naturally around successful projects on crowdfunding websites, there's almost by necessity a buzz around it. So that buzz attracts people. So I think maybe to your point, Heather, I think the product market fit may be amplified a little bit just by the, hey, this is viral, this is the next big thing, just because a lot of people are sharing it. But whether or not that product will last once it hits the marketplace, that I think remains to be seen.
Oh, I was going to ask one question with that because I can't remember how long between and their product came out. How much time space gap was that?
I totally missed the variables in your question. Sorry.
Yeah, I only got half of that.
Sorry. How long was it between the product coming to be and the process of them getting the funding? How much time gap was that? Was that like a year, 6 months between the funding and them actually producing the product?
In which case?
At the very beginning?
In this case. Yeah, I just couldn't remember because they got the funding, but then I couldn't remember how long it took for them afterwards to bring out the product, because I can't remember how long it was, but I just remember feeling like maybe part of the reason that they failed was because the viralness of its desire was there, but then by the time that they brought out the product, that desire, that focus in society had already started to dwindle. Does that make sense? So they hit the market in the time for preparing for it, but not the time. But they should have been selling it at that time. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to because is this from another case?
Yeah, because I didn't think that they failed.
No. Sorry, it's not that they failed. It's just their highest opportunity point was to take advantage of it soon. I just can't remember whether they took care of it soon or if it took them a long time to get the advantage. Does that make sense? Sorry, I said it the wrong way. So it was just a question. It's okay. We can pass over it. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool.
What was the next bullet point? Are we on bullet point number 4 on question 3? I think we already answered that.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that. What choices do technical founders have for financing that they didn't have a decade before? I think the answer to that is crowdsourcing.
Yeah. So it wasn't off topic. We just skipped ahead.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see. Number 4, VC firms compete on their ability to source, pick, win. How does Andreessen Horowitz's business model influence these abilities compared to other VC firms? So think of source as the ability to get founders to come in the door seeking money. How does the way A16z treats its founders differ from the way a traditional VC treats them? Will this increase, decrease, or have no effect on the number of potential deals A16z sees compared to the competition?
Didn't they do?
Well, didn't
Hold
it
on. Let me find it on the thing.
help them to hire people and have access or the ability to access customers and stuff? Like network, isn't that what one of the main things it helped them with?
Yeah, they were huge on networking. What really got me was they would um, reach out to executives of big name companies like Pepsi and Hewlett Packard and
Right.
things like that. Say, hey, what topics are you interested in? Come on down to our offices, and they had companies from within their portfolio present to
Right.
them. So it's, I mean,
Startups.
yeah, I mean that was absolutely amazing. You know, I think I might have mentioned before, I've been working with startups for 6 years. I've never heard of anything like that. You know, that's really cool. And I think you know, treating their technical co-founders that way kind of built up a lot of goodwill to the point where they were able to refer other people who were looking for funding. It's like, hey, go check out Andreessen Horowitz. They treated me well. They'll treat you well too. You know, so again, it was a lot of word of mouth business, I think.
Right. There was one part I highlighted where it says there was over 70% of referrals. What is it? They had met with over 3,000 executives, and over 70% referrals to new executives came from existing contacts. So they had a high referral rate. So yeah, I think they did really good in just work and like I said, creating that value for them that these other companies weren't really focusing on. So I think they personalized and made them feel like they actually cared.
Yeah, exactly.
And that
They
would
went
take
for
care of
the
them.
yeah. I think their main currency was relationships. They were looking to build long-term relationships with their
Right.
people.
There is a lot to be said for having good relationships with people in business. I mean, like I'm interning for my uncle for my internship this semester, and he runs a logistics company, so they ship and move a lot of random things.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of accounts that he was like, I would have lost a whole bunch of business from this one lady if she didn't like me. Like, if she didn't know me personally, if we didn't have a good relationship, she probably should have dropped me a long time ago for some of the mistakes that I made when I was just starting out. But because we get along so well, she's kept me around. And even though I know there are probably cheaper people that she could have gone with.
I may be downstairs. I was gonna say I noticed that too with my business. When I went to buy it, they actually had turned it from a place that had literally no relationship with the customer, where under 2 stars, did like a half a star to 1 star, I think, was what was going on with their company. And that's when they bought it. When they're selling 5 stars and make a ton more money, and have opened up a work where I can read something out of it because they've create that naturally, and it changes the whole product dynamic. So I totally agree with you.
Sorry, Kenton was like, just got on the message thing and said, I thought we were meeting next week.
Oops.
Why would we be meeting next week?
Why wouldn't we be meeting next week? But just why wouldn't we also meet this week?
Right.
10 weeks. Or how long do we have for the next 10 weeks?
Oh well.
Just tell them that it'll be every week, just so you know, twice.
I thought that was established.
Oh man, that's priceless.
So I guess we all agree that it would increase, right? The number of potential
Mhm.
deals compared to the competition, like
Yeah,
their model.
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And
Yes.
Heather said definitely. She just hasn't said it yet.
I said yes.
Okay, so how will this change? How will that bringing it in if A16Z begins to fire CEOs because they are not performing well? Will this increase, decrease, or have no effect on the number of potential deals Andreessen Horowitz sees compared to the competition? I think it'll decrease slightly, uh,
Yeah.
but it
I don't.
depends.
Yeah.
It depends on why they're firing people, right? Like there was a thing in the case in one of the exhibits where Ben Horowitz talked about he didn't like VCs that just fired CEOs willy-nilly. He seemed definitely more willing to work with CEOs and give them feedback on what they could be doing better, even when they were being successful. So I think if they stick to their guns and if they're honest with CEOs and not just firing them so they can get their own guy in there, I think it might still actually keep their keep the business flowing up, just because of the just because they'll have a reputation for integrity and being fair.
I agree. I think as long as they're not firing them because they don't like them or something, and it's for legitimate reasons, I think most people, most reasonable, rational people,
Mm-hmm.
will say, "Oh, you know what? I'm okay with that. That they fire people occasionally, as long as I'm doing what I should be. Then it doesn't apply to me."
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel
So
with
what do
venture
business are.
capitalism, I feel like venture capitalism, the idea is to allow someone else to learn. So if you're not letting them learn, then what's the point, you know?
Right.
So I feel like it's a really critical point that I'm glad that they try to keep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree.
So is Kenton not coming, or?
I don't know.
It was supposed to be next week.
I sent him the link.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'd probably be in the same boat as him.
That's okay. But I don't know.
That's okay. It happens. All right, cool.
He can just watch the recording.
Yeah. Yep, that's gonna have to be it. Okay.
Watch him.
Yeah. So let's see. How does the operating team help Andreessen Horowitz source, pick, win? Does it increase the odds of getting more high-quality deal flow? If so, why? Does it affect A16Z's ability to pick winners? Does it actually have any impact on the odds of success for Andreessen Horowitz portfolio companies? If so, how? If not, why do you think that?
Because that's why.
Okay, could you repeat that question one more time? I want to make sure I understood it before I answer it in an unintelligent way.
Okay. So how does the and I'm trying to coordinate my other group meeting, so I apologize for trying to look at my phone and read something off my screen at the same time. That obviously won't work. How does the operating team help Andreessen Horowitz source, pick, win? Does it increase the odds of getting more high-quality deal flow? If so, why? Does it affect Andreessen Horowitz's ability to pick winners? Does it actually have any impact on the odds of success for an Andreessen Horowitz portfolio company? If so, how? If not, why do you think that?
So, I actually got to do a really cool study about this, and that's why I wanted to make sure I was understanding it right first before I spoke. But oftentimes, if you have employees looking for deals, oftentimes they'll not want to bring up deals that could be more risky or could this or that. They want only the slam dunk looks, which sometimes actually don't bring the same amount of profits or opportunities. And so oftentimes some of the best opportunities are missed because someone else is looking for you and because they're scared of giving you something that you don't want. And so I feel like it's not a bad idea to have more heads searching, but in the long run, there are some opportunities that could have been very valuable that I think she's missed. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think it's a balancing game. Like, you want to stay involved and you want to be actively looking yourself, but at the same time, you can't do everything. You do have to outsource some things, and this is probably one of the things that eventually you have to let go and hire people who share your process and your checklist of things for them to meet, and let them deal with it, because there's other stuff for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Even the kid agrees. I'll be right back, you guys. 1 second.
Okay.
Since I'll talk about him while he's gone.
Oh, I might still be here. It may not have. I was expecting it to kick me off because I'm using my phone for 2 different things, and I thought it'd just toss me off, but it didn't. I was pretty impressed.
Oh.
Yahoo multitasking.
I know, right? Samsungs are the bomb. That's all I can say.
Phone salesman.
Hey, I have 2 friends who are iPhone users, so I give them crap all the time.
Okay.
I like my Android.
All right. So let's see. Did we answer the bullet point successfully?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now here it comes. We get to vote as a group for point 5. Put yourself in the shoes of Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. You must decide whether or not to seek to double your assets under management. Vote as a group. The decision must be unanimous. Consider the following as you decide. How many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support? Are there any economies of scale in this business? Will you have to hire more operating team people? If so, will the partners actually make more money for doubling their assets, or will all of the additional profits go to hire more people? Dun, dun,
That's a great
dun.
question.
Those are all very good questions.
Yes. Possibly?
I think the first question, yes, there would be a great amount of profits that are put towards hiring people to be able to search. But in the end, I feel like for doubling the assets, even if you're doubling the amount of employees, you're making profit off of those employees and those higher-ups to begin with. So doubling it won't necessarily cause a problem. It just means that you'll be getting the same percentages, and you won't be seeing a higher percentage off of doubling your assets. You'll just have to do twice as much work, twice as much solid profits, and twice as much quality looks.
Yeah, I think they should double their assets, but for different reasons. The fact that their main product is relationships and networking, that just increases the value of their network, and that's really what the economy of scale is for Andreessen Horowitz. It's the power of the relationships that they're building, and if you think about it, like you mentioned, Jared, that does give them more access to people, to more quality people, as well as more quality deals. But that's a huge amplifying effect is people's networks. And I think that's organic growth. So they position themselves in such a way where they'll be able to handle double of what they're currently doing. I think that'll just reap dividends in and of itself.
Yeah, it's hard to duplicate organic growth artificially.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
No, you're
I was gonna
good.
say I agree with what you guys are saying, just because, I think they need to double their assets because, or else I feel like they'll run themselves too thin and not be able to, who was it that mentioned? Sorry, I'm like reading my notes. Matthew, I think, has said that then they won't be able to provide their customers the value, and so
They have to keep the same level of service as they were before. But if they want to expand, then they need more money to keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I've learned is people are not a scalable resource, for want of a better
No,
term.
not
You know,
so much.
you can only get so much out of people in it, and eventually, if you need to scale something that depends on people, you just have to get more people to do
Yep.
it. There's no real effective solution other than that.
There's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so many hours that they'll work or are able to work.
Yep.
And you don't want to overwork yourself or them to the point where they burn out and their drive or your drive is lost. Because as soon as your drive or your motivation is dropped, then you're going to literally crush whatever positive could have been created, and you're wasting your time working.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Cool. So I think we're unanimous. They should double their assets.
As long as they don't do something stupid with themselves, I agree.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So I think we are good. I will. I'll do the same thing as before. I'll wait for YouTube to process the video, and I'll send out the link to everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting now.